What was that? What the hell was that? It went by like we were standing still. Blue leader to group. Get off the air. Going by at 2 o'clock. What the hell is it?
It was the Messerschmitt 262, the world's first operational jet fighter. It flies 150 miles an hour faster than our fastest fighters.
The Messerschmitt Bf-109 is a German World War II fighter aircraft that was, along with the Focke-Wulf Fw-190, the backbone of the Luftwaffe's fighter force. The Bf-109 first saw operational service in 1937 during the Spanish Civil War and was still in service at the end of World War II in 1945. It was one of the most advanced fighters when it first appeared, with an all-metal monocoque construction, a closed canopy, and retractable landing gear. It was powered by a liquid-cooled, inverted V12 aero engine. It was called the Me-109 by Allied aircrew and some German aces, even though this was not the official German designation. The plane was designed by Willy Messerschmitt and Robert Lusser, who worked at Bayerische Flugzeugwerke during the early to mid-1930s. It was conceived as an interceptor, although later models were developed to fulfill multiple tasks, serving as bomber escort, fighter bomber, day, night, all-weather fighter, ground attack aircraft, and aerial reconnaissance aircraft. It was supplied to several states during World War II and served with several countries for many years after the war. The Bf-109 is the most produced fighter aircraft in history, with a total of 34,248 airframes produced from 1936 to April 1945. Some of the Bf-109 production took place in Nazi concentration camps through slave labor. The Bf-109 was flown by the three top-scoring fighter aces of all time, who claimed 928 victories among them while flying with Jagdgeschwader 52, mainly on the Eastern Front. The highest scoring, Erich Hartmann, was credited with 352 victories. The aircraft was also flown by Hans-Joachim Marseille, the highest scoring ace in the North African campaign, who shot down 158 enemy aircraft, in about a third of the time. It was also flown by many aces from other countries fighting with Germany, notably the Finn Amari Juutalainen, the highest scoring non-German ace. Pilots from Italy, Romania, Croatia, Bulgaria, and Hungary also flew the Bf-109. Through constant development, the Bf-109 remained competitive with the latest Allied fighter aircraft until the end of the war. Design work on Messerschmitt project number P.1034 began in March 1934, just 3 weeks after the development contract was awarded. The basic mock-up was completed by May, and a more detailed design mock-up was ready by January 1935. The RLM designated the design as Type Bf-109, the next available from a block of numbers assigned to BFW. The first prototype, Versuchsflugzeug V1, with civilian registration DEAB, was completed by May 1935, but the new German engines were not yet ready. To get the R3 designs into the air, the RLM acquired 4 Rolls-Royce Kestrel VIA engines by trading Rolls-Royce a Heinkel E70 Blitz for use as an engine testbed. Messerschmitt received 2 of these engines and adapted the engine mounts of V1 to take the V12 engine upright. V1 made its maiden flight at the end of May 1935 at the airfield located in the southernmost Augsburg neighborhood of Honstetten, piloted by Hans-Dietrich Bubby Nutz. After 4 months of flight testing, the aircraft was delivered in September to the Luftwaffe's Central Test Center at the Erprobungsstelle Reichland to take part in the design competition. In 1935, the first Jumo engines became available, so V2 was completed in October using the 449 kilowatts, 610 PS, 602 horsepower, Jumo 210A engine. V3 followed, the first to be mounted with guns, but it did not fly until May 1936 due to a delay in procuring another Jumo 210 engine. As with the earlier Bf-108, the new design was based on Messerschmitt's lightweight construction principle, which aimed to minimize the number of separate parts in the aircraft. Examples of this could be found in the use of 2 large, complex brackets which were fitted to the firewall. These brackets incorporated the lower engine mounts and landing gear pivot point into one unit. A large forging attached to the firewall housed the main spar pickup points and carried most of the wing loads. Contemporary design practice was usually to have these main load-bearing structures mounted on different parts of the airframe, with the loads being distributed through the structure via a series of strongpoints. By concentrating the loads in the firewall, the structure of the Bf-109 could be made relatively light and uncomplicated. A fighter was designed primarily for high-speed flight. A smaller wing area was optimal for achieving high speed, but low-speed flight would suffer, as the smaller wing would require more airflow to generate enough lift to maintain flight. To compensate for this, the Bf-109 included advanced high-lift devices on the wings, including automatically opening leading-edge slats, and fairly large camber-changing flaps on the trailing edge. The slats increased the lift of the wing considerably when deployed, greatly improving the horizontal maneuverability of the aircraft, as several Luftwaffe veterans, such as Erwin Lakoff, attest. Messerschmitt also included ailerons that drooped when the flaps were lowered, F-series, and later the lower radiator flap operated as part of the flap system, thereby increasing the effective flap area. When deployed, these devices effectively increased the wing's coefficient of lift. In July 1937, not long after the public debut of the new fighter, 3 Bf-109Bs took part in the Flugmeeting Airshow in Zurich under the command of Major Seidemann. They won in several categories: first prize in a speed race over a 202 km course, first prize in the Class A category in the International Alpenrundflug for military aircraft, and victory in the International Patrouillenflug category. On November 11, 1937, the Bf-109, flown by Messerschmitt's chief pilot Dr. Hermann Wurster, powered by a 1,230 kW racing engine, set a new world airspeed record for landplanes with piston engines of 610.95 km per hour, winning the title for Germany for the first time. Converted from a Bf-109D, the V-13 had been fitted with a special racing DB601R engine that could deliver 1,230 kW for short periods. The first Bf-109 has served in the Spanish Civil War. By September 1939, the Bf-109 had become the main fighter of the Luftwaffe, replacing the biplane fighters, and was instrumental in gaining air superiority for the Wehrmacht during the early stages of the war. During the Battle of Britain, it was pressed into the role of escort fighter, a role for which it was not originally designed, and it was widely employed as a fighter bomber, as well as a photo reconnaissance platform. Despite mixed results over Britain, with the introduction of the improved Bf-109F in early 1941, the type again proved to be an effective fighter during the invasion of Yugoslavia, where it was used by both sides, the Battle of Crete, Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the USSR, and the Siege of Malta. In 1942, it began to be partially replaced in Western Europe by a new German fighter, the Focke-Wulf FW-190, but it continued to serve in a multitude of roles on the Eastern Front and in the defense of the Reich, as well as in the Mediterranean theater of operations and with Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps. It was also supplied to several of Germany's allies, including Italy, Finland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Slovakia. More aerial kills were made with the Bf-109 than any other aircraft of World War II. Many of the aerial victories were accomplished against poorly trained and badly organized Soviet forces in 1941 during Operation Barbarossa. The Soviets lost 21,200 aircraft at this time, about half to combat. If shot down, the Luftwaffe pilots might land or parachute to friendly territory and return to fight again. Later in the war, when Allied victories began to bring the fight closer, and then in German territory, bombing raids supplied plenty of targets for the Luftwaffe. This unique combination of events, until a major change in American fighter tactics occurred very early in 1944, that steadily gave the Allies daylight air supremacy over the Reich, led to the highest ever individual pilot victory scores. 105 Bf-109 pilots were each credited with the destruction of 100 or more enemy aircraft. 13 of these men scored more than 200 kills, while 2 scored more than 300. Altogether, this group of pilots was credited with a total of nearly 15,000 kills. Though no official A status existed in the Luftwaffe, the term expert, was used for an experienced pilot irrespective of his number of kills, using the Allied definition of pilots who scored 5 or more kills. More than 2,500 Luftwaffe fighter pilots were considered aces in World War II. Against the Soviets, Finnish-flown Bf-109Gs claimed a victory ratio of 25 to 1.